The discussion around Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather continues to generate heated debates among fans, analysts, and former champions, especially in light of Crawford's recent accomplishments and Mayweather's transition from competitive fights to exhibition bouts. The conversation often begins with a simple observation that fighters today can make enormous sums of money even when they are not headlining the biggest events. For example, some boxers on an undercard of a major show might earn more than a headliner at a smaller venue. Floyd Mayweather himself once discussed the idea of keeping his money clean, even admitting to stashing hundreds of thousands of dollars in plastic bags. Such stories highlight that fighters at Mayweather's level do not actually need more money, but often continue competing or appearing in exhibition fights for financial reasons rather than athletic ambition. This becomes even clearer when examining why many great champions fight well past their prime. It is typically to generate cash rather than to prove anything new inside the ring. Terence Crawford has been vocal about not wanting to be dragged into this type of cycle. He has emphasized that he has no interest in fighting Floyd Mayweather, making it clear that such a fight would never even cross his mind. Crawford explained that he has never looked at Mayweather as someone to size up or think about defeating. He stated that he has always been a fan of Floyd's and never thought of him as an opponent he needed to beat. In his view, thinking about whether he could beat another fighter he respects is a type of envy or hate, something he has never entertained. For Crawford, those kinds of hypothetical fantasies are unnecessary because he focuses on his own career and achievements without attempting to diminish Mayweather's legacy. Still, critics and analysts continue to bring Floyd Mayweather into the conversation. They argue that Mayweather's recent appearances in the boxing world are more about financial gain than legacy. Mayweather, once universally celebrated for his defensive brilliance and perfect record, now chooses to participate in exhibition fights that bring in big paydays without any serious sporting value. Analysts point to how Mayweather flaunts his wealth, suggesting that he does not need these bouts for income, yet still takes them. Many conclude that post-retirement, his priority is money-making ventures, which has left some fans disappointed in how his career has evolved since leaving the competitive stage. Mike Tyson also weighed in on the matter when discussing fighters continuing late into their lives. He noted how shocking it is to see certain fighters still taking risks, suggesting it can be detrimental to their health. He referred to his own fight against Jake Paul, acknowledging that even though he was in tremendous shape, at his age he struggled to sustain the pace he wanted. Tyson emphasized that physical decline is unavoidable, even for legends. While Floyd is younger and smaller, Tyson expressed concern about what motivates him to continue taking these kinds of fights, because it seems driven entirely by money rather than passion or competitiveness. Former world champion Timothy Bradley has given his perspective on a potential hypothetical matchup between Crawford and Mayweather. Bradley argued that Mayweather historically struggled against southpaws and Crawford, with his switch-hitting style, timing, and adaptability, would cause Floyd serious problems. According to Bradley, Crawford's versatility and skill set would break down Mayweather's defensive style. He even went as far as to claim that Floyd is not as untouchable as his reputation suggests, especially when matched with a fighter as dynamic as Crawford. Bradley drew attention to Floyd's struggles in the first half of his fight with Zab Judah, a terrific fighter, but not on Crawford's level. He highlighted that Crawford's reach, power, and ability to fight effectively from both stances would create insurmountable challenges for Floyd. Bradley insisted that Crawford could counter Mayweather's tendencies, such as his habit of reaching with the right hand, which would leave Floyd vulnerable to Crawford's counterpunching power. Other analysts echo Bradley's sentiments, pointing out that Crawford's physical advantages, including a longer reach, combined with his intelligence and power, would allow him to pressure Mayweather in ways few fighters could. They suggest that when Mayweather faced adversity in fights, he often responded by stepping on the gas, but Crawford's strength and counterpunching ability would punish such adjustments. The consensus among this camp is that Crawford is the most complete fighter they have ever witnessed, capable of maintaining focus, adapting to any situation, and carrying legitimate knockout power that Mayweather would struggle to handle. On the other side of the debate, many argue that comparing Crawford to Mayweather is unfair. They point to Mayweather's resume, which includes an extensive list of elite opponents spanning multiple weight classes. Critics of the Crawford over Mayweather argument say that while Crawford has been dominant, the quality of opposition he has faced does not match the level of Mayweather's career. They believe that Floyd's greatness is already cemented through decades of consistency and an undefeated record, while Crawford is still building his case. From this perspective, Crawford should be respected for his achievements, but not placed on Mayweather's pedestal until his resume includes a comparable depth of opposition. Boxing commentator Showbiz the Adult offered a bold but nuanced perspective. He argued that Crawford deserves to be ranked above Mayweather for one specific reason: risk. Showbiz emphasized Crawford's victory over Canelo Alvarez, highlighting how Crawford dared to move up in weight to face a dangerous opponent in his prime. He contrasted this with Mayweather's more calculated approach to matchmaking, carefully choosing opponents at the right times to maximize advantage. According to Showbiz, Crawford's willingness to take risks elevates his legacy beyond Mayweather's managed career. However, Showbiz also cautioned against oversimplifying the debate. He noted that while Crawford's win was historic, Mayweather's career reflects unmatched consistency, quality of opposition, and long-term dominance. In his view, legacies cannot be judged on one fight alone. Both fighters must be considered in the context of their eras and overall contributions to the sport. Interestingly, Terence Crawford himself has expressed frustration with the constant comparisons to Mayweather. He insists that he does not want to fight Floyd, reminding fans that Mayweather had his time and this era belongs to him. Crawford acknowledges Mayweather's greatness but stresses that legacies should not overlap. He believes it is unfair to continuously pit him against a retired fighter, especially since they belong to different eras. In Crawford's view, the focus should remain on appreciating what he is doing in the present rather than drawing endless comparisons with Mayweather's past. When asked directly about how he compares himself to Floyd, Crawford replied by saying that Floyd was the greatest of his era while he is the greatest of his. He sees no need to debate which one is better, as both represent their own time periods in boxing history. His response reflects his desire to separate his legacy from Mayweather's and focus on his own accomplishments without being overshadowed by constant comparisons. Other fighters have weighed in with their own takes. Danny Garcia, known for facing top opponents himself, gave a diplomatic answer when asked who would win between Mayweather and Crawford. Instead of choosing sides, Garcia suggested the fight could end in a draw. He explained that Floyd's defensive mastery and Crawford's offensive adaptability would cancel each other out, making it difficult for either fighter to establish clear dominance. Garcia's balanced take reflects the respect both men command, showing that their skills might be so evenly matched that even a hypothetical fight could remain inconclusive. When asked about Crawford facing Oscar de la Hoya, Garcia acknowledged Oscar's talent and suggested that either man could win, emphasizing de la Hoya's underrated resume and Olympic pedigree. Former champion Shane Mosley also contributed to the debate, suggesting that Floyd's size would be his downfall against Crawford. Mosley argued that Mayweather thrived against fighters closer to his own size, but Crawford's natural advantages in reach, power, and versatility would neutralize Floyd's defensive brilliance. According to Mosley, size plays a crucial role in fantasy matchups, and Crawford's physicality would be too much for Mayweather to overcome. Mosley's opinion carries weight since he himself gave Mayweather one of the toughest fights of his career, landing dangerous shots early in their contest before Floyd adjusted and secured the victory. Some analysts argue that it is not only size, but also wear and tear that separates the two fighters. Crawford, though older, has fewer fights and less accumulated damage than Canelo Alvarez, one of his biggest opponents. His career has consisted of largely one-sided victories, meaning he has absorbed less punishment than many fighters of his age. This preservation allows him to remain sharp and dangerous despite his years. In contrast, Alvarez has taken more shots and fought in more wars, giving Crawford an advantage in durability. For these reasons, many believe Crawford will continue to dominate even as he ages. Crawford's victory over Canelo Alvarez has been described as the defining moment of his career, cementing his status as one of the greatest of his era. Moving up 2 weight classes to face such a dominant champion was seen as a bold risk, but Crawford handled the challenge with precision and control. The victory not only added to his resume but also demonstrated his willingness to take risks that many other fighters, including Mayweather, might have avoided. Analysts argued that this separates Crawford as a fighter who is fearless in testing himself against the best, regardless of weight or perceived danger. For Crawford, the win represents more than another title. It symbolizes his legacy as a risk-taker who succeeded at the highest level. The discussion about what comes next for Crawford includes several possibilities. Some suggest he could move to the middleweight division and face challengers like Janibek Alimkhanuly, a feared and avoided fighter whose boxing IQ and power could provide an intriguing matchup. Others point to a potential rematch with Canelo Alvarez, which could be even bigger than the first fight given the attention their initial meeting received. Another possibility, though less likely, is retirement. Having already become an undisputed champion multiple times across weight classes and defeating one of the most dominant fighters of his era, Crawford could choose to step away from boxing with nothing left to prove. However, given his competitive nature, retirement seems unlikely for now. Trainer Stephen Bredman Edwards has urged fans and media to stop forcing comparisons between Mayweather and Crawford. He believes Crawford's victory over Canelo should be celebrated for what it is without constantly dragging Floyd into the conversation. Bredman criticized the immaturity of debates that pit retired fighters against active ones, noting that such comparisons only create unnecessary tension. He pointed to the ongoing feud between Floyd Mayweather and Roy Jones Jr., warning that fueling rivalries through constant comparisons can sour relationships between great fighters. In his view, fans should simply enjoy Crawford's achievements without overshadowing them with endless debates about Mayweather. Ultimately, the boxing world remains divided. Some argue that Crawford's willingness to take risks and move up in weight to defeat dangerous opponents places him above Mayweather. Others insist that Mayweather's undefeated record, consistency, and resume of elite victories cement him as the greater fighter. Still, others believe both men should be celebrated without forcing comparisons, acknowledging that they represent different eras and different approaches to the sport. Whether one sides with Crawford, Mayweather, or neither, the ongoing debate demonstrates the profound impact both fighters have had on boxing. Each has left a unique legacy, and their names will continue to inspire arguments, admiration, and respect among fans and experts alike.